Gentlelady yields. The chair now recognizes the gentlelady from Colorado, Ms. Boebert, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you to our witnesses who have joined us today. Ms. Clark, in your testimony, you agree that third-party litigation funding does pose ethical risks, such as conflicts of interest, correct?
Correct.
Fantastic. Then why did you spend most of the time off topic discussing the, quote, ethics crisis, end quote, currently facing the Supreme Court?
Congressman Boebert, I believe that relative to the ethics challenges in the third-party litigation funding context, the ethics crisis at the Supreme Court is much more grave and significant.
Thank you, Ms. Clark. What really it sounds like is an ethical concern to me is the constant wave of frivolous litigation from environmental extremists that deprive communities of employment opportunities, improvements to outdated infrastructure, cheaper products, corporate tax revenue, and economic certainty. So now, Ms. Clark, are you familiar with Earth Rights International?
I am not.
EIR is representing Boulder County in a lawsuit against ExxonMobil and Suncor Energy to, quote, recover the costs associated with climate change impacts. Now, would you happen to know who might fund Earth Rights International? Not knowing of the group, maybe you don't know exactly who funds this group.
Correct.
Correct. So EIR is funded by several wealthy anti-oil and gas funds, including George Soros's Open Society Foundations, the Rockefeller Family Fund, the Rockefeller Brothers Fund, and the Tides Foundation. In this lawsuit specifically in Boulder County, the Rockefellers have provided direct funding to the lawyers in this case. Another outside organization supporting the plaintiffs received a $200,000 grant from the Rockefeller Brothers Fund less than 2 months before the lawsuit was filed. Ms. Clark, do you find it at all concerning that these extreme environmental groups are attempting to circumvent this body by legislating via lawsuit?
Anytime a third party has a financial arrangement to finance legal fees, there is a potential for conflict of interest, and there are rules to address it. But beyond that, I'm not familiar with this particular group.
So I would see this as them attempting to circumvent this very body, just via lawsuit and our legislative process. In this Soros-funded lawsuit, ERI is making a baseless claim that oil companies are responsible for the destructive wildfires ravaging across my home state without a single mention of the several wilderness area designations. Now, a wilderness area designation prevents us from actually managing our forests, and they make it impossible, in fact, to actively manage that land. These policy decisions are debated and discussed by experts in congressional committees, which Democrats and Republicans agree we need to actively manage our forests, and that's why the founders gave this authority to Congress, not the Rockefeller families, to sue job creators, to shut down operations that will only hold up critical energy development projects for years, especially in my state, increase project costs, contribute to skyrocketing gas prices, and discourages future development. My communities that I represent in Colorado's 3rd District are literally being regulated into poverty because of these extremist environmentalist groups and their lawsuits that are circumventing our job here in Congress. Now, Ms. Clark, do you know how many jobs depend on the survival of the oil and gas industry?
I do not.
The oil and gas sector supports 69,000 direct jobs and 271,000 indirect jobs in my home state of Colorado. These are very good jobs. They're good paying jobs. And out west, George Soros and the Rockefeller families are trying to destroy in an attempt to legislate through the courts. This is a huge problem, and if they fail, at least they can go home as winners with a taxpayer-funded settlement. Do you know how much money federal government agencies spend settling these ridiculous lawsuits?
May I answer?
Yes, you can.
I do not know.
So former Director Ash testified that the agency spent approximately 75% of its listing program budget on, quote, substantive actions required by court orders or settlement agreements from litigation. 75%. Now, that sounds like a very real ethics crisis to me, Ms. Clark. Mr. Chairman, I yield. Thank you.